Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Web3 Marketing. We have Arvin, we have Jeff here, and just chatting all things, almost just candidly from business owner to business owner, operator to operator, like what's going on in the markets, and just talking strategies. And just wanted you to be part of these insights and just hear it from behind the scenes. So, Arvin.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, another episode, and it's one of those things. We're just talking about all sorts of cool things, and then we're just like, yeah, let's just record it, so like people get to hear it too. Yeah. So you're talking about the events.
Yes.
Of course, ETH Denver is happening. You guys going? What other events you guys going?
So, right, we understand that Web3 and NFTs hopefully shouldn't be in this very small niche, right? We think back in the 90s, it was like, oh, I'm starting an internet company. But an internet company should just be a regular company, right? Like you're going to be using the internet, whether you have a florist shop, whether you have like a food and beverage, and you just sell e-commerce. So like it doesn't have to be internet. So events that we have lined up, ETH Denver, NFTLA, otherwise known as Outer Edge, and they've kind of rebranded it to be broader than just NFTs. We also have an investment banking conference that bridges startups tech called the Roth Conference, which is like usually, you have investment banks there. You have celebrities, you have business owners, you have pre-IPO companies going to go there. Actually going to, it's called the Natural Food Expo here in Orange County, California. And a lot of the trendy foods like vegan, cool new waters, the next, like, I don't know, like prime energy drink, I'm sure with Logan Paul and these celebrities, like tequila companies are going to be there, will be there. Another conference that we have coming up are just, yeah, trying to think. Yeah, but across all of these, like kind of where startups and investing, marketing, and capital raising all kind of come together, which we found to be our niche. And also, yeah, another gaming conference. And
Which one's that?
so,
Which one's the gaming one?
well, GDC, I think, just happened. And that's where a lot of our clients go. The Game Developers Conference, March 20 to 24 in San Francisco. I think that is going to be a very, good conference. And, it's what's even interesting too is that there's events that are being canceled. And so, and if you've heard of Kevin Rose, right, his proof conference was canceled. And
Wow, when was that?
that was supposed
Recent?
to be, it was coming up, and then they canceled it. And so I think they're just having these mini events, like they're doing an ETH Denver meetup. But yeah, it was supposed to be in the next couple months. There just wasn't enough activity for it.
In Dubai also they get canceled because, well, I mean, there's been definitely a decline in number of people attending. I honestly think it's not just because it's not bull market, it's because we kind of ruined it, like for the attendees, by
Wow.
just bringing speakers that, you know what I mean? Like, I guess when I say we, as in, I mean collectively, us as inside the industry, just bringing speakers that weren't really qualified to talk about certain things, and then, or just maybe they weren't, maybe either they weren't entertaining or they weren't educational. Like they were kind of like neither one, and so it's that, like, the expectation of the, like, you see like NFT NYC, people go, and always the only thing I hear about that is just the parties. I never
Yep.
hear like someone says, oh, I learned this from NFT NYC. So I was like, this party that was like on day one, it was like really good, or this other party was like really cool. So it's, I've never heard like people actually describing things that are actually getting like the values they're getting out of these events. So I I see that's definitely contributed to it. Of course, it's not bull run, and I believe, to be honest, it started May of last year. Like I was speaking at 7 different events in May, like
Wow.
7 different countries, and then I spent a lot of time just going from one event to another event, and then some of these events were just like so few people, and this was early, right? So like last year May, it was just around the time where, I guess around the time of Luna crash happened. So it wasn't like as like deep into the bear market, but it certainly was just very present, like how people not as excited anymore. And then so I think there's another reason also, in Dubai specifically, they get canceled because it's actually really difficult to get license here. It's not like other countries. Like you need to get a license to have more than, I believe, 20-30 people in one room. And every
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Hmm.
And every speaker need to actually give their like a passport and IDs to the government. So they do checks on like actual every single speaker. And so it's not like the typical, like, I don't know, no other country does that, to be honest. I've
Hmm.
spoken everywhere else, like I've never been asked for my IDs. And then like even Abu Dhabi here, we just had a thing with them just recently. Like they sent us this 3 pages application. I was like, I'm not applying to be like a king of like Abu Dhabi, or like, you know what I mean, like some emirate I guess official. Like this thing was so many details they were asking us, like. And then but that's like the process. So I think that also contributes to it, where maybe people shy away from wanting to do events,
Yeah.
and then I see them too, like, canceling. So
Wow. That's good feedback.
yeah.
For us, it's during the bear market, um, or during the bull market, you had so many events. And I think that there were too many events for right. People still need to work and get stuff done. And during the bear market, right, it used to
Right.
be 30 global crypto events. Now I think that there's just 5 like solid events. And I want to share here like what ETH Denver does right. And hopefully for people listening, it's like,
Let's
Arvin,
take
you're
a look.
completely right, is that you cater towards the people attending the event rather than catering towards the sponsors. And if you cater towards the
Yeah.
people like attending, you will always have attendance rather than just seeing them as like, oh yeah, you want to pitch your next project. But it's really about the education. And I know that ETH Denver has always been around like like a bull or bear market, and the way that they do their programming, which I do feel like from a marketing standpoint, users should always, or just like project creators, most people that follow this podcast, right, they're project creators, and it's just how do you attract an audience. And I do feel that if you lead with value first rather than just trying to be a pitch fest, they will kind of attract that. And I think ETH Denver has done a great job, and they lead with that, and they're all about rather having a small community of people that want to educate and provide value, as opposed to like the more pitchy type. Yeah. So
No, I agree. I agree. I did I'm trying to find if I can find it for you. I did just recently did one. So this is let me just see if I can find it. Let's see. Yeah, so I just did one with Space with CityDAO, and I believe
mm,
so one of their strategy actually, ETH Denver, was I at least showed them 3-4 spaces. So I think one of the strategy was for them. I don't know if it was just kind of just happened naturally, or like they were like intentionally doing this, but they were on all these spaces, and then they I it appears to me, I don't know for sure, but it appears to me that they also went after specific people that had influence in very specific things, in, like, for example, like DAOs, right? And
mhm,
then they wanted to see how like each segment of this community, right? So we have like multiple segments. We have gaming segments. We have, I don't know, DeFi, like different ecosystems, and then we got DAOs and all sorts of different things. So it seemed like that they're kind of just going into all these different segments and then talking about the ETH Denver and just getting people excited. They created like different Telegram groups for it. Just
that's
all came
cool.
out of, you know what I mean? Like, so it just seemed like a very very you know good as far as like the efforts that they made to actually create these things. It just seemed like a very productive way to do that. And then they were answering people's questions, so things like that I really liked. And honestly, I've just recently been schooled by some, I guess, listeners in a Twitter space. It's, you kind of talked about it. I don't know if it was before the show or during the show you said this, but there's like, for example, gaming is certainly, we certainly passed I guess the point where it's exciting to just talk about the NFTs in the game. It's more so like, okay, is the game exciting? And then how can you make the game so exciting for people to play and then not even realize there's
Correct.
NFTs in
Hmm.
the back end, right? It's actually the other way around. And I think we just talked about it maybe even like another time too. So it's actually the other way around. Like I think in maybe 2021, there was a huge focus is just be like, here are the features. Now
Yep.
it's more like the benefits,
Yep.
right? So the features being like, or technology being the
Ooh.
NFT.
Hmm.
And then now it's like, okay, no, we don't care about those anymore. Like, what am I actually getting, right? So the benefits, uh, as
100%.
far as
So
like, yeah.
and this
Mhm.
is great, and that was one of the topics that one of the listeners asked us. And should you still use NFT and buzzwords in your marketing campaign? And
Right.
you kind
I
of
think
answered.
so.
And so, one of the things that I'm actually doing is that I just interviewed Origin Protocol, who did a deal with Roofstock to take investment properties and tokenize them. And so rather than leading with, hey, do you want to buy real estate investment property on the blockchain through an NFT? They say, do you now want liquidity and a more streamlined purchasing process to buy real estate? Because when you buy real estate, so much paperwork, so much back and
Mhm.
forth, you don't even know the title if you actually own it, unless you contact the title company and they have to do this. So what Origin Protocol did with Roofstock was they said, we can streamline the buying experience of investment property to be faster, cheaper, and more transparent. And then I asked them, I said, well, did the real estate investor buy it because it was a buzzword NFT? They said, no, they're actually just a real estate investor, but they liked the benefits and the features of
Mm.
this as opposed to the buzzy technology. So yeah, in terms of marketing a project, it's really nice now during this bear market for projects is to just think, what kind of value and innovation can you provide outside of just writing the hype that are these buzzwords? So
Yeah. And then also like, isn't NFT, isn't Ticketmaster using NFTs?
yes,
Yeah, they do, right?
yep.
They already using or they want to use it?
I think they're testing it right now. I'm
And
actually
they're using
hearing,
Flow. Looks like they're
okay,
using Flow. Yeah, that's cool.
there is that NFT ticketing. I did see them in Miami Decentral, the big one, which is trying to think of it right now. Something heart, Yellow Heart. Yellow Heart does Web3 ticketing. And
Mm,
yeah, they're transforming how tickets are issued. And I'm always asking other founders to say, okay, well, why isn't the next soccer or football match or music festival going to use your ticket? And always in the world of like Y Combinator, they say that your product needs to be 10 times better than the current solution in order to get mass
mm,
adoption, right? Like Uber, right? It was 10 times better to do an Uber than to get a yellow cab.
yeah,
Airbnb, right? It was 10 times better to use Airbnb than to do your own rental. And so I think we're still waiting for that
yeah.
game
Right
changing use
now,
case.
I mean, you tell me, but right now it just seems like it's the equivalent of like just a barcode. Um, right now, like it's still like NFT, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
like now it's not barcode, it's an NFT, but it actually does the same thing because it literally links, like an NFT links back into something, and then so does the barcode. It actually links into something else. So it's just like an alternative, but it doesn't actually, it may not actually have any additional benefit. Possibly, well, the only benefit that it could have is just this is on the blockchain, so the record is immutable. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really big deal. And I suspect for like counterfeit tickets, that's gonna be a really big difference. But then
Yes.
I don't know, maybe they can't really communicate that to people because like if I've heard this before. There's actually another company, I know I can't remember the name of it, but they still like, it's not like, it hasn't come, just like you're saying, it hasn't come to the point where people be like, okay, well, I have to use this. It's more just like, oh, well, here's another thing. It's just like when people talk about NFTs in the music, it's like, well, do people want to just go on their Spotify and listen to some music, or do they want to just get a MetaMask or like some wallet and then pay, and then so like they have to install the wallet, then they have to pay to get the NFT, and then they will be able to actually get the tracks of the NFT. So is that even, so that seems like more work. Like how
Right.
would the artist go mainstream with like millions of people listening to their stuff if it's just so hard,
Yep.
right? So
You're right.
so
You're
yeah,
right. You know
yeah.
what we noticed too is like in the world of, let's just use NFT tickets, there was probably, I don't know, I'm just assuming like 30 startups working on NFT ticketing. And then during a bear market, a third of those are going to go out of business almost immediately where they just give up. Another third is going to go through their 1 or 2 years of cash. And then I think that they need just to consolidate all those startups into maybe a handful. And then, Peter Thiel's book, Zero to One, is to say, like, well, you've got one person that's really good at a dev, one person that's really good at user
Mm,
acquisition, one person's really good at strategic partnerships. What we see is all these project creators should almost come together and build a better
mm,
project together, which we saw. So in 2018, during the bear market, nobody was really going to conferences. And my co-founder and I, Ivan, still went to these conferences, and we saw failed startups that put together a company together, and they went to these conferences just to meet people, and then they launched a project together. And arguably it was like, I don't know, they created billions of dollars of value, and had they done it
mm,
separately in two different entities, they wouldn't have done it. And then so they came together, and then we saw it, we're like, oh my gosh, that's why we're so excited right now. And I know Ivan's even at ETH Denver to say, like, hey, what's going to be the next hot project, what's going to be the next
mm,
OpenSea Binance that's going to come out of it, because founders are coming together. And we still see a lot of layoffs happening at your major companies. And even today, I was reading on Twitter, like all these layoffs, but it's smart for these people to now come together and say, let's stop working in so many different startups and just combine it in one singular effort to create the best NFT ticketing platform. And so, yeah, we've been telling our, some of our clients too, it's like, hey, start building those strategic partnerships now. And maybe you should just merge with other companies. And we know that I also talked to um, I think they're the largest crypto M&A company that's out there. And
which one?
he was Elliot Chun, and he is with Architect Partners. And
Mm,
he sees a lot of deal flow, and he has a really good report about what's going on in the space. And he basically says that, yeah, it's survival mode for most of these companies, and just to figure out, it's time to pivot your project into something that could be sustainable.
yeah, I heard even like influencers back in 2018, so I knew about crypto, but I wasn't doing anything about crypto back then, other than just like an individual I guess contribution I had. I heard a lot of influencers back then when they were building, when no one was talking about it, no one cared. Now they are, they're just like on top of the game. um and so I think there's definitely something to say about just the builders, the true builders that are just not just giving up
Mm-hmm.
with the external things happen. You talked about marketplaces, OpenSeas. So did you see this with OpenSea, and is it Blur?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right.
So this is crazy. There's like a huge war between the two.
Yep.
Um, so they have like no so Blur has um no fees for the like inside the and then as far as like is it the trading that they don't charge any fees? As for the sales, they don't charge any fees. Is that
Yes.
is that
Yep.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And then I think OpenSea now they're trying it out. I saw on I was like on the platform, they're trying out. Yeah, right now we dropped our OpenSea fee to 0%, and I like how it's just like for a limited time until basically Blur just stops doing it.
Right,
We're
right.
just doing this too. So it's interesting. It's really interesting. Like the competitiveness in this industry right now, especially in the in the bear market, and how it just comes down to creativity, right? These guys are just like, they looked at, I can only think, I don't know them, but they came up like with this idea. It's just like, hey, if they just have that, they can compete. Like, you know,
Mhm.
if they have that value. And so to be honest, it's really good. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how else they can make money if they don't have any fees. I don't understand like the business model, how they can make money without the fees. I guess it's just like they have so many users, and then later on, they then they will just lift this, and then those people are gonna buy in again. I'm not sure how they're going to make money if this was their way of making money, but it's certainly interesting, like how creativity, just like these little things, it just is the name of the game right now. And
Yep.
then as opposed to like in the past, it was it was it was funny, like, you know, just you didn't have to do anything, you just sell out projects, you would make money. Like, you know, so now it's changed, so it's cool, to be honest. Like I like it. It's the I like the challenge, I say.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I agree that platforms will be made better, faster, cheaper, and the margin is going to be compressed because exchanges, right, were some of the most profitable businesses. And OpenSea is an exchange, Binance is an exchange, but they take fees. And if a competitor can come in and just make it faster and cheaper, then why not? And I do think that it's a better user experience for somebody buying NFTs to pay less. And so, hopefully that experience just gets replicated. And even just for our marketers that are out there, one of the questions that somebody asked was like, how do you market on a budget? Well, one, it's the they you can strip users from other platforms and just essentially come out with a version that is cheaper and hopefully better for them, and just incentivize your user more. Right? Everyone's trying to create the Web3 Uber, the Web3 Amazon Web Services, the Web3 Dropbox, the Web3 whatever it may be, Airbnb. They're trying to create a Web3 version of Airbnb, and it's just like the marketing play is just give it a lower cost version.
Yeah, I just googled how does OpenSea make money. It is literally that, just that 2.5% from the seller's standpoint. So I'm gonna read this now that we talked about this, because this is interesting. So I don't understand how they can survive. Isn't FTX the platform that did this, by the way? They said like, we don't want to have any exchanges, just give us your money, we'll use it for other things that you don't know about. And then like, that's how we're gonna make money.
Yep.
I don't know
Yep.
how. Yeah, so it's like, I don't, it's also tricky. Like, I think for on the face value, people are just like, oh, this is so cool, like it's just all about the inclusion of the community, we're just gonna, they just drop the fees to zero. But then you never know what's going on in the back end now, right? So like, what's gonna come out later that's just like, hey, we took all your NFTs and then like we own half of it, or like, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like, what's,
Right.
how is that benefiting them? Like, it doesn't make, to me, it doesn't make sense. If like the largest I guess platform for NFT, I guess NFT marketplace is making money through that percentage, and then they just cut it to compete with the other one that's just saying, hey, we don't need it. Like, I don't understand. Like, there must be something to it. There's definitely, it's always like something. And I heard like a lot of these I don't know if it was like X2Y2 or another one, that they were just doing crazy amount of market making, wash trading, to just get it, like get their sales close to OpenSea. So it's very interesting thing. I haven't actually looked into the business models of these companies, but I wonder if it's a time for, so obviously OpenSea came at a very right time and just they crushed it, right? But I wonder, and it's $1 billion company, but I wonder if now anyone's thinking about that, to like come in, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? To just come in and just create, and even like Blur coming in and just with their zero, it's just very curious. Like, what's the catch? You know, like, to some people, I know, like, you know, I go on these Twitter spaces. A lot of times people, they don't look past things that are just like on the face value. They just like get excited for these things, like, oh, there's no fees, or like I think DeGods were trying out. They said they want to have no royalty fees for a while, and I think they gave up with that. But for a while, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's so cool." It's like, how is that cool? Like that's this. I don't even know how that's like benefiting anyone. Like the whole point of like artists, being able to get money and for their work, even though they're not doing they're doing just being out there marketing, focusing on their art, that's actually a value to the community. So I don't know why people thought it would be nice not to have any royalties for collections. So anyways, this is very, very interesting, and I wonder how it's changing inside the bear market. Like how many people are actually thinking about coming up with these like new marketplace ideas to like maybe launch it anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. And so what I've been hearing on my side on the marketplace launches is that OpenSea is more or less eBay. And so I've heard of other platforms to create a bespoke feel, like Shopify, basically, where you own the platform and the user experience. Because imagine going to OpenSea and you buying, I don't know, a Bored Ape or a CryptoPunk. It's like when you walk into the Louis Vuitton store, right? It's one thing buying on an eBay as opposed to the Louis Vuitton store. So we've heard of like projects that are basically creating a more branded feel. Like Origin Protocol does that. They did that with Pudgy Penguins. I think here's a really interesting story, which I love to share, is because Miko is awesome. There's this guy that we know. He's just a phenomenal venture investor. His name is Miko Matsumura. He's with Gumi Cryptos Capital. He invested in OpenSea in 2019. And he's one of our favorite VCs. And he's been just early advisor and very collaborative. And he launched a fund last year, great timing. And he's rapidly deploying capital right now. And what I thought was really interesting is like, he was so early on into OpenSea in 2019, and to have the foresight to this, like, oh, it's going to be a digital collectible NFT platform, to understand this back here when nobody else was seeing it. And even now in 2023, I wonder what's going to be that new disruptive technology. But I just want to highlight, yeah, just these.
That's very interesting. I always think about like, I'm like, what kind of people get involved in these things before us? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Because sometimes I've heard a few things that I just like didn't invest in, and then later on I was like,
right,
like I should have, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. You always hear about those people, that bought into Ethereum at the ICO, or that bought into Bitcoin in the initial, and like, oh my gosh. And so we try to follow those people as much as possible, and really just, we don't think that it was like lightning in a bottle, that there are things that they do, and just to stay at the next thing. Yeah.
You think they're just smarter, or like what is it? Because I would say connections is also a big thing. Like I'm part of a bunch of groups, and I see there's certain deals of like investment. It doesn't even get open to the public. Like people don't know about it, right? So it's like just people inside that group hear about it. They immediately like they just jump to invest on it, and then that's it. There's no one else to invest, right? So like, what is it you thinking? Going on?
And so we're invested in a handful, actually a number of VC funds, and the VC funds that I feel do really well, they kind of match these like characteristics. One is they're very deep research, first principle thinking, cutting edge technology. And so they'll just constantly read white papers and understanding just very innovative technology at its early stages. And so even using like Vitalik Buterin, right, when he, like his research paper was about just, decentralized technology and blockchain technology, he wrote a paper about it. And so these VCs that we know, very just deep in research, and they read that like somebody scrolls on Instagram. And so, right, they just constantly looking at that. Number two is right, they have access to deal flow that we typically do not, and maybe they're geographically located in an area that has a certain community. And so, previously it was being in Silicon Valley in the Bay Area, where typically, just the vast majority of these startups happen. And then 3, they're very good at relationships and staying in tune with the movers and shakers, so that when somebody leaves a project to go start something new, they're watching them and they know that they're on their list. And so, some of the top VCs that have done it really well, and just as like Andreessen Horowitz, right? They understand that they're in a people business. They attract people, and then if you look at their new hires, are constantly finding the best out of the best, like up and coming stars across various industries, and also bringing on veterans in like gaming. And then 2, they also host events, and they also host like these social gatherings to be at the front line of these things, and are constantly pretty much at every like major conference. And so yeah, that's what we've seen for like the best
That's
VCs
interesting.
to get
This
lucky.
is speaking of reports, like these are some of the reports. Like I read this one. I like this one. It's the PwC report. It's an annual report they have. It's like 50 pages, but it's actually pretty cool. It's very, very rich in insights. There's another one. Someone told me, have you read this one, McKinsey report? I've never actually read this one, but this is someone just recently told me. I'm gonna look it up. And then there's I believe it's called AIM as well. I'm not sure if that's the one, but AIM, it's actually does stuff with the PwC when they do reports. And it's really interesting because a lot of, like, for example, this one in PwC, they had, well, everything they talked about was just before the FTX. So it's kind of like a lot of this data is kind of irrelevant. Like there's like a lot of they talk about how a lot of these hedge funds like want to, like, there's a huge percentage of them they want to get in. They're only waiting for like regulations to come in, and then maybe the Ripple versus SEC would be the one where that just changes things for them, and then they, like, a lot of institutions come in. But I don't know like what FTX did, right? So I'm actually just really curious about like what the next report will say, because there's definitely a lot of people that just, they were very excited, and then they saw the FTX and they were like, I don't know about this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but yeah, it's very so yeah, like reading these I guess reports, and that's white papers, of course, and that's the thing. It's like a lot of people who are coming to the space, that's the least thing they do. They just go in and just like and even I would say even VCs, like you're talking about some VCs that are good at this. I've talked to some VCs that are not good at this. Like there's one I was just chatting with the other day, and then they're like, we need to see the project at least having 20,000 followers on their Twitter. I'm like, that's so short-sighted that I cannot
Right.
say anything else that's like the more short-sighted than what this guy just said. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, there's a joke that like the tier 2, tier 3 VC, that's how they think. Oh, and
right,
yeah, it needs to have 20,000 followers. It's
right.
yeah, they
It's
right.
like, wow. Like, I hope like no one actually gives you the money like for you guys to invest. Like that is such a bad advice.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
I'm going to
Yeah.
share this. This is really, I mean, this is another great VC that we follow, and they spend a lot of time putting this together. This is from Electric Capital. And so they had their annual crypto developer report, where they track the ecosystem. And right, there's a popular trade too, is to follow the developers, right? Because whether it's Ethereum, Polkadot, Cosmos. And so they publish this, I believe it's a 185-page report, and it's just fantastic about what's going on in the space, how
That's cool.
they look into like the commits, and just the best that VCs that we see, very data driven and analytical, looking at wallets, looking at signals on just like, are people here to just pump and dump, what's going on, and just like, yeah, take a look at this report. It's phenomenal. And
What is it called
so
again?
this one is Electric Capital Developer
That's cool.
Report.com. And
Yeah.
so yeah. And another thing is, yeah, for us here at Crowdcreate, we publish our own list of crypto VC funds that are kind of like crowdsourced and voted on. And here's another good database as well, where they have a list of VCs and then they rank them from like Chad to 1 to tier 2 to tier 3, the number of investments, their unicorn hit rate, what is the post-investment support, what is the community score, what is the reputation score. Because some of the really good VCs that we know and we talk to, they actually help their portfolio companies get distribution as well. So say, for example, if you're a gaming VC, they'll introduce you to like Epic, or they'll introduce you to Blizzard or media companies that can help you get distribution. And now that, we're seeing who's still in it, and even these big banks, I think a lot of them are kind of shying away from their blockchain initiatives because, they're just focusing on other things.
Well, a lot of banks got into investing in actually the technology with Ripple,
Mm-hmm.
but I wonder. So it's a lot of them. I think it's like 30 something banks. So it's actually very cool. It's a lot of them, and then but I wonder like what will happen. I see there's definitely a movement of a lot of the a lot of platforms delisted XRP for a while. Now they're getting listed back on, and so there's definitely that movement. It's just like once these guys are successful, there may be like a huge win for the entire community,
Yeah.
as far as not just regulations but also just like people getting excited again.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you speaking of excitements, did you do anything about the Bitcoin ordinals at all? Did you read about it?
No, no.
Okay, so there are Bitcoins. Well, there are NFTs. So it's a Bitcoin NFT, and people. There's no marketplace for it yet. So people just buying and selling them off a spreadsheet right now, like on Discord servers, and apparently it's like pretty exciting thing right now. It's just really, really people like very bullish about it, but that's like an area I've just been right now just been looking into it, just see what it's like. I'm sure at the beginning, just like any other chain, there's just that massive excitement, but yeah, but there's but I haven't launched anything on that chain yet. Like I've projects that I had, a lot of projects I had on Ethereum, of course, had Solana. God bless. Solana is no longer, I guess, in something people bullish about. But the XRP, Hedera, I've never done anything, but definitely want to see if anyone's done stuff on the Bitcoin side of things, because there's just a lot of there's a lot of people who are just, I mean, they're just Bitcoin maxis, they're just
Yep.
very, very very excited about Bitcoin. So it's just a really cool platform. So I like it. Now, speaking of which, what so you get people coming to you. I think we kind of talked about this.
Yep.
You get people coming to you. So now, especially right now, is it's the time to be creative, and it's not the bull run. Not everyone maybe has like wallet with like lots of money in it. Maybe it just went down like significantly for a lot of them. So recently we're getting these requests, and sometimes like hilarious. Like we actually just like laugh. So the people come in and they seriously considering what, just telling us, hey, like they have maybe a few $100s,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have these business goals of like $2 million to like $5 million, and that's how like so they see it as a viable thing. Like they seriously actually having these conversations with a lot of people. And then I actually never talked about it with like other maybe people in this industry. So like how do you guys, like, do you guys get that as well as it's just us? And then like what do you think about it? Like do you think it's just like education that's just missing, like business education that's just completely like lacking in this industry? Or like how is that like people having these expectations with like a few $1,000, they think it's reasonable to make a
Yeah.
few $1 million. And if that's the case, why me and you just sitting on a podcast right now? Why aren't we doing it ourselves, right? If that's
Right.
a real thing.
Yeah.
So
Oh, on your previous point with the Bitcoin ordinals,
yeah.
so I'm actually reading here that it's being developed by Hero, which is Stacks. And so I actually did an early investment in Stacks back in 2017 when they
Mhm.
launched, really, really small, and just to see what it
What
was
happens?
all about. And it's so interesting going back to like our VC. And this person was with Y Combinator in 2014, and then he started Stacks, which is distributed web, and then now he's starting Trust Machines, which is building, using the Bitcoin blockchain as like the settlement layer. And so his name is Manib, a phenomenal founder. And to answer your question in terms of like these founders that aren't being reasonable in terms of how much they're looking to get out of, say, launching a marketing campaign. Let me show a video here because this is very irrelevant. And how much they spent on this video was just a testament of like, hey, if you want to raise large amounts of money, and if you want to be able for it to be successful, you really need to understand what it takes to get these projects off the ground, which you're right, in terms of inexperienced founders, they typically do not have that foresight. And I could tell that they also, haven't been a part of an accelerator program or understand the basics of business and startups. And so my recommendation to these companies: join an accelerator, join an incubator. And if you do not get accepted, just be a volunteer for their event, maybe their hackathon, and they will just learn basic business fundamentals. And you're much better off in terms of launching a project, knowing, right, the framework that Y Combinator has been using for years and years to be successful. And then rather than approaching a marketing agency like ours, where they just have this crazy ask, and it's just, sometimes just not possible to be able to do with
Yeah, they
limited
get frustrated
resources.
too, right? It's like it's
Right.
interesting. They get frustrated. I see. And then there's like I was looking at like different freelance platforms like Upwork. There are these job posting that's just like I just like I'm like, where is this industry going? Like where people just like literally like they had this thing where you would have to like do their tweets for a few weeks, do their Discord management for a few weeks, and then they will and then they want to have like multiple people do these things, and then they want to figure out who's the best one. Then they want to start actually paying that person. And it's like, where are we going with with this industry? And I've heard actually the other side of things where it's like the other day I heard from so there's a VC actually that they want some Twitter services done. They came to us, and then they actually this is we weren't expecting this, but this is like, so they're very reputable as well. And then they're like, so can we do this as a like a percentage based thing? I'm like, what do you mean? And then it's like, oh well, so we want you to be like invested in this. So I see like there's been like an increase in the I don't know, it's just to like compensate for the trust that's been maybe, I don't know, is been lacking. And so people getting into these like new forms of partnerships, that's just people so involved. Whereas, and this is very like this is contrary to like how the agencies were in the past, where it's like I've seen it the other side of things too, right? I've actually worked at like big agencies, years ago, where just a company would come to us, and then there's like lots of account managers deliver the work and then move on next company, just like it's just like a conveyor belt. Like
Yeah.
just company comes in, gets services, and then delivered, and then moves on, right? And then so there's definitely a difference in the vibe I'm seeing. And I'm just like, if a VC is saying things like this where they're like, we don't trust anything, we have to like, we see everyone being involved in like percentages and with like, maybe like maybe we want to just like get lots of people involved in this conversation so we know like references and everything, right? So I'm like, if that's the case, first of all, we really like ruined the trust for like a lot of people back in 2021 when there was like the bull run and like people stopped delivering on their stuff. But also like we've certainly going in that direction where it's possible we actually started getting people just only doing things on the blockchain, right? So like everything is recorded, right? Or the maybe like the traditional ways of actually doing business is going to change. I don't know. Like what do you think?
Yeah.
It's do you think, or it's just like a phase?
I think that, right, it's best to align startups to have skin in the game. And I understand where the VC is coming from, saying that we need a partner that's actually, kind of like invested themselves, right? Because you think for the most part of how these VC and startup incubator models work is that the founder has to have significant skin in the game, or they want it, right? They're mission driven entrepreneur in the way that they structure and set these up, rather than hiring an agency that's just going to do on a retainer. But I see how they're structuring it, and just going back to how typically these accelerators, incubators kind of structure their engagements. It's to figure out what is fair and how to get people all aligned in incentive. What's that famous is it Charlie Munger quote? He says, "Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome." And so I think yeah, you
But do
really
you like
need
it?
to
Do you
um
like it, or do you dislike it? What do you think about it?
well I think that whether I like it as a marketing agency owner and operator, some companies work best, and it's just if you have a very basic salary, and then some people understand the upside, so a performance-based commission. And so for me, if you're in the startup phase, I do think that yeah, you have to creatively come up with a an agreement that will work, and incentivizing everyone for the upside of it. And other companies are more mature and they understand it's just transactional, right? You shouldn't have to ask your influencer to say, "Hey, I'm going to give you like NFTs and you're just going to do it purely on the upside." Whereas a more stable business like Coinbase and Binance say, "Okay, we're going to hire these influencers, you need a certain number of followers, we're going to pay you for any engagement," very transactional. They understand their back end analytics on it. And I think that every company is ultimately different in how they structure
Of
it.
course.
Yeah.
I think
Arvin,
Yeah, I think FTX did that. Like FTX, when they're influencers, they just paid everyone.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like they just went hard on paying everyone. But what
Um,
we were just gonna say.
oh yeah, to kind of wrap up, I do know that we have some loyal listeners that watched our initial episodes, and they did have some questions, and I just wanted to
Cool.
touch on it lightly, just to kind of give back to them for supporting us. And so maybe just in general, it ask you is like, so how would you do marketing on a budget right now if you were a Web3 NFT crypto project? What are your recommended
Yeah, so
strategies?
this is like almost like we need 10 episodes for that. But of course, I yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's interesting. Like I see even VCs talk about like, the time for just asking for money and just treating NFTs for fundraising for everyone is past. But
Yep.
like there's some people are still are able to pull it. Like I have projects that we're able to pull it, but the I don't think it's just as common anymore, right? So
Hmm.
it's it's actually deeper than just saying, okay, I have just a few $1,000. What should I do? It's more like just you gotta actually see like what are you offering this
Mm.
Web3, because it's the chances are if like this hard to get a lot of followers, it's hard to go on Twitter Spaces, no one cares. It's actually telling you something, to be honest. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's actually good info, and so I think there's definitely, with AI now, like you can do art with AI, you can create content with AI. Everything is just going to be cheaper, right? So there's just like
Hmm.
there's that side of things where people can just benefit from those. You don't have to maybe hire people to do certain things that just doesn't need a person to do it. You can, or just maybe you need a person who knows AI, rather. But then I think better question is like, okay, like is what we're about to just launch, is this a good, is this a project that actually going to be well received or
Mm-hmm.
no? And then if it's not, then you got to be willing to just be really I guess consistent and just resilient, just and then try out the methods that are just very proven,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then as opposed to I would say maybe just trying out whatever. Like if you
Yep.
don't have advisors, if you don't have like people who've done this before, and then you're trying things on your own, you're bound to just come back. Like it's just one example of it. Like it's funny. Like I actually have access to Twitter handles of my clients,
Mm-hmm.
and then I go look at their DMs, and every day I actually say the same people in all of them, my clients' DMs, saying the exact same thing, just promising like, oh, we've sold out so many collections, and they literally send the same spammy DM to all of them, and
Uh-huh.
then it's like as a founder, it must be so hard. It's like it just reminds me of these like games where these like axe coming from one way, there's like fire coming from the other side. That's probably like the experience of the founder, like not getting scammed. You know what I mean? Like continuously they're just from left and right getting these offers that are just, a lot of them are so bad, it's terrible. So I think like one of the things also, like if you don't have a lot of budget, like don't just go and try it out to see what happens. Like get an advisor to just like use it wisely. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So yeah, I mean there's a lot to talk about that. What do you do? But I found like certain strategies we've done recently, for example, the paid ad side of things, that has been good. Like we had one project, they had $20,000 in ads, and then they recycled that money to $130,000, and then they were able to make 989K in 3 weeks. That was
Mm-hmm.
June of last year. And then now we're doing the same thing actually right now. It's still working over the past week. So I don't know if that's the same strategy works for everyone, but I just say like there are things they just got to figure out what are those things that's just gonna fit their budget, but definitely not just trying random things out and just like going with every promoter that's in their inbox and just say, hey, let's just try this out. Let's put $1,000 here, $800 there, another few $1,000 here, and just see what happens. That's like the worst. That's the worst approach. That's like the shortest way to just burn through budget,
Yeah.
the little budget that they have.
I agree. And yeah, for me, it's like the best marketing you can do is actually to find product market fit or even just community fit. And just some people are like, hey, I have a 10,000 NFT collection. It's like, can you first just get 10 people that want to follow you and listen to you and just interested in your project? And then you get 10 and then get 100 and then get 1,000 before you think a 10,000 NFT. And so, yeah, really good feedback on that. Okay, another question would be, how many whitelists do you need to be successful on launch day, and like kind of what are the numbers that you're seeing on like
Okay, so
conversion of?
this is actually a really cool thing. I just published a case study with exact numbers, so I would want people to just actually look at it. So
Nice.
here, let me just show you. So basically, so this is on my LinkedIn. People can just see it. It's available for just public, but they can see. Let me just show you. So there was a bunch of software, I guess, platform like Premium.xyz and Gleam.io. Not taking shots at them. I talked to them previously, but I assert they need to come up, they need to adapt. Like the time for these guys is past. Like they need to adapt to the new market. They still doing the same thing they did in the bull market. So, and then why is just because I'm just gonna give you guys just the actual numbers of it. Let me see if I can find it. There is let me see. There's definitely blah, blah, blah. Oh, there you go. So what we did was we tracked every single sale that came from different whitelists. So we literally were like, okay, so in this case study, we actually were like, okay, this many people came from, for example, pre-mint. And then percentage of those people who actually converted. This many people came from collabs. Percentage of those people converted. And when you look
Wow,
at
that's cool.
you look at the percentages, it's very scary. And then and also I think for people just looking at these numbers, first of all, it took a lot of time for us. This happened inside my incubator, but it took a lot of time for us, and we just like literally giving it away. And it's, by the way, it's replicable too. Like we actually tried it out with 2 other people and similar results, which is why since we saw these, we stopped doing it this way. We do things differently, but this project is still sold out, but it's just really good for people to know not go that way. So you can see exactly like how many sales came from, they have this thing called, for example, collab pass. How many sales came from the collab pass versus not collab pass. And if you look at percentages, they're all like under 10. So it's meaning if you actually look and I have like a hard facts thing placed here as well. So I just basically tell people what what they can conclude from this, because that's also sometimes confusing for people. Like they need to actually someone tell them. But anyways, the point is free whitelisting and getting people just give away whitelist with this collaboration, that collaboration, and then these are the percentages that shows up at the end. So you would need, like, for 10,000 collection, you would need maybe something like 100,000 like whitelist or something like that. It's like that bad. Where percentages are less than 10% actually converting if it's a free whitelist.
Wow. So where do they come from then? Where do they ultimately come from?
The sales?
Yeah. Or with those whitelisters?
So some of these came from, are you familiar with Premium XYZ, the platform?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So some of them came from, so they have this thing called the collab pass, where they, like, the moment you get approved, you get somewhere around 2,000, and we've done this a lot before. Like we used to actually, we were really like excited about this back in some time ago, but it's no longer the case. But the moment you get that collab pass, I guess, approval, then you get somewhere around 2,000 ish like whitelist registrations. And then from those, so I you can see here, for example, from those, it's 0.51% of those collab pass the purchase. It's just super low.
Yeah.
And then so like people thinking, okay, well, why is it that, like, then, by the way, this project sold out November 2022. So this is just a few months ago. Now people are thinking, okay, so why is it that just the whitelisting, I guess, data is so, like, the conversion has gone so low? Instead of being 70%, 80%, now it's like less than, like, sometimes even for these things, it's like 2% to 7%. Like, why is it so low? Reason I told people is actually, let me see if I can find it. The reason is this. So now they have, when we started doing these things with projects, it was, just like some projects, some blue chip collections did it, and then it was just literally just us and like a bunch of projects I was working with, and then maybe just some people outside too. Like, it wasn't many projects knew about these things. And then things change. Now they have 54 million registrations. So now it's not the same thing. Like, basically, just, so what this means, this data means, is like this. I, as a user, if I'm on that platform, I go and just register for, let's say, 100 whitelists, and then it's all free. So I'm just going to register for all of them. And then even if they email me about the specific projects, they probably emailed me about 100 different projects, because there's 32,000 of them. And so by the time the mint of like one of these 100 projects come through, I don't even know what that project was. And then I don't even know if I want to do it, because I'm just overloaded with options. So it doesn't work. So that's why this this concept of whitelisting in this specific way is no longer, I guess it's no longer valid. Now we did that even with like with collabs as well. So register holders without collab pass, we had like 58. NFT sold without collab pass, we had 196. So we have actually like percentages of those as well. So like people can see like, hey, certain things, they get more value, like basically where they should spend the time and money on versus other things. Because I still see like projects come to us and they're still doing these free whitelist giveaways. Like, I don't know how else to tell people, like, it doesn't work. Here are the numbers. Like, what you still see people look at this and it's still like, oh, but we have a collab coming up like next week. It's like, why?
So you get the traffic from pre-mint though. That's
in this case, yeah. In this case, the traffic came from pre-mint itself has a traffic, and then also driving people to that pre-mint page as well. So like the pre-mint page looked like, I'm gonna show you.
So it's the ecosystem of pre-mint that ultimately they've right, like-minded.
It is, but the thing is though, like, so we would even have people from, let's say, paid ads or people from influencers drive traffic to this page, and this is what the page, let me just zoom in, this is what the page would look like for you to be able to log. And now, of course, now it's like it's ended. I took a snapshot after it ended, so this is what it looks like right now, but it usually would look like connect your wallet, follow their I guess Twitter, and then also join their Discord. You would do all those three things, and then you will become a registered whitelist. So back in the day, it was a big deal because we were like, oh, that is so qualified. This, it's not just like they gave us their let's say MetaMask wallet and we put it on some spreadsheet. This is very qualified. They did all these things. Sometimes we would even ask the same people, be like, when you got to the Discord, open a ticket as well. It still doesn't make a difference. It's still the conversion is going to be low. So then we changed our strategies. We literally like just tried this bunch of times, grabbed all the numbers, and then I basically just made an announcement inside my incubator. I was like, no more, like, don't touch this, like, do not do this way, basically. So and then and to be honest, I think I actually was a big like encouraging I guess vehicle for doing things in this way. And maybe even if people like see me like some video of like events or podcasts, I used to say that, I used to be like, this way of getting whitelisted was like really useful. But the thing about this is that it depends on when they're looking at things. Things change so rapidly where you can't just like watch something from like 2 years ago and then just go and try it, because it's just not the case anymore, right? Things change. So anyway, so that's that. But people can just go read it. I'm probably gonna put it on my website as well, soldoutnfts.io. But it's right now it's on my LinkedIn, so people can just go on my newsletter. They can read the whole thing with everything we've done, how we've done the videos, all the little details. Like literally VCs like read these. So just everything is just actually present, so people can just read it.
That's really
anyways,
cool.
That was a long answer to that question.
Yeah. I actually have to jump, but yeah, future topics we need to cover on the episode. Still, people are asking like, what are the best ways to do collabs with other projects? People are asking like, if you don't immediately sell out, is it okay to do a longer sellout over weeks to months? But this is good. Excited for the next one. There's just so much to talk about. And, for anyone listening, please subscribe, put your comments, go to Arvin's LinkedIn where you can read that report, follow us on Twitter. Always happy to chat and answer questions that you have, and ultimately contact, Sold Out NFTs and Crowdcreate if you need any help. Cool.
Of course.
All right. Thanks, everyone.